And here we are. How's it going?
Great. How are you doing? Thanks for
right.
having me.
Of course. It was the idea came to me a long time ago. I'm like, who do I know? The interesting people. Oh yeah, that guy, that crazy guy in Vancouver. Yeah. Well, you're not in Vancouver anymore, right? Well, you are, but not now.
Yeah, I've been up in Pemberton, BC. Just it's about 25 minutes north of Whistler since this all kind of happened. And as much as this whole thing kind of sucks, I'm in a great place where we're in 3 acres of land. There's a glacier up there. There's a mountain creek in the back, and there's deer all over running wild. And I'm just isolated to begin with. So as much as I miss seeing a whole bunch of people, it's been not a bad place to be overall. I can't complain about that. It's one of the most beautiful places ever. So that's good.
That's good. That's good. All right, so let's tell our listeners, who you are. Scott and I met how long ago? 8 years ago?
We met in around 2010, I think.
2010, close to
2011.
2011 or so, 10 years ago. Both working on, failure to be project eventually. But it was fun. And since then, I quit that industry. You continued in that industry. And you became quite a bit of success.
Yeah, not so bad. I've been watching you just absolutely do awesome things in the mixed martial arts world and so on. So basically, since we last worked together, as I started a company, as you well know, called Community with a K. It was all about a community of talent.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is I'm actually full circle right now. Is my first stage after doing this. I've been doing this now for 27 years. My first 18 years, I worked for other people. I worked for companies and so on, and that was great. But then when I wanted to start my own company, I wanted to do it very, very differently. And particularly after 2008, when the world economy kind of went like that, I just kept on thinking there has to be a better way to do this, faster, more nimble. And then the other thing is my favorite time working in the advertising design business is when I just work with really talented people who are just good people who you enjoy collaborating with. When you work with great people who are talented and just fun to be with I can't wait for Monday morning. We've all had those jobs where you dread. You get that feeling of Sunday you dread. But if you work with great people, you love it. So what I did is, I started this company, Community. It was all community of talent. And I was completely virtual. And so, which is hilarious, because here I am again, basically running a company, virtually pretty well with other people, of course. So that led on to this other company called 123 West. So the other company was going well, but there was limitations because I also missed the camaraderie of, sharing in the successes and the highs and lows of work. I'm an ex-hockey guy, ex-sports guy, typical Canadian. I was a goalie, and I love being part of a team. And so we started 123 West. I have I'm more of the business strategy guy, but I had 3 of the most creative people in the country, Rob Sweetman, Jeff Harrison, and Brian Collins.
Yeah, those are your partners, founding partners, right?
Yeah, as partners, and we started that company in 2013, and knock on wood that it's completely took off. And we purposely started in a garage. It was all about low overhead, high talent. And we just, we started rolling. Is that we do everything from packaging design, industrial design. We redesigned the Tim Hortons coffee lids. Some people love them, some people hate them. Yeah, we did all this Muskoka brewery design and so on. My partner Jeff is one of the top designers in the country, and we've done lots of great beer packaging and so on. And then, of course, we do advertising too. So we can do advertising and design at at a world class
Yeah,
level.
you're quite unique. I've been following you since you started that stuff, and when we met, you quit. Well, you didn't quit. You left the big, let's call it big box advertising companies.
Yep.
And you worked for them, what, 20 years, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And when you started it, this is what I admired about you right away. I'm like, this guy is onto something here. Because when we met, remember the project in Vancouver, and I was going through horrible times with my family and stuff, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And you were there leading the project. And I'm like, this guy is really like, there is no overhead, there is nothing there. Every single penny comes in, it goes to people that are working on a project. And it was great. It was like, yeah, it's gonna happen for him. Like, I really believed in you, and that's why, like, I kind of followed you all this time. And then I started noticing 123W and the freaking website you did with songs. That was most ridiculous website ever.
Yeah, that website was, well, yeah, if you remember, it was, when you start an agency, it's hilarious. Like, my partners and I, we worked at some really good companies. My partners were at Rethink, and we were at Palmer Jarvis DDB, and there's Cassette and all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Between the four of us, we'd won every major award in the world many times over.
Yeah.
We're not award obsessed now, but the companies we used to work at were. But the ridiculous thing is you do all this work, and then when you leave to start your own company, they basically, they own the work, and they do not like it, those ex-agencies, when you show that work, particularly on your website. And so it's basically kind of a thing that you basically can't show your ads that you've done. The hilarious thing is that, you could work with four people and make the best ad in the world, and if you all left, the agency's showing the work that no one there did, but everyone else did, but you can't show the work. So what happened, when we started this agency, 123 West, for the most part, we all kind of do the same thing as everyone else. It's just like anything in life. It just comes down to talent and drive and process and so on. And so we basically started a company and had nothing to show. And then because we wanted to be about low overhead and high talent, we used a site, and it's still around, called Fiverr.com. But back then it was even better, because back then you would pay $5 to these people anywhere in the world, and they would do the funniest and stupidest things ever for $5. They'd get you a bit more if you tried to do some extra stuff and so on. So we launched this site. We spent $600. We launched this site, and it starts off, this girl's singing a song about 123 West, and it's all about our story, our low overhead. Yeah. And then we're doing the bios, and we had a whole bunch of them, and we had this, like, I like heavy metal music, so a guy was, doing mine all about heavy metal, and then we had people in India, and we'd have people all over the place. We'd have, like, dogs in it, and the whole site cost us $600.
Jesus Christ.
We start the agency. We end up getting national news. We were on the cover of the Globe and Mail Report and Business section on our first day. So we kind of, everything kind of aligned. We're in the right place at the right time with an interesting story. And then we had this ridiculous website, and we launched the company. And then within 9 weeks, we won a Cannes Lion for the best website in the world. And we spent $600. And so
there you go. That shows, right?
There's it was pretty smart. We eventually changed it, because after a couple of years, I loved it because it was so whacked out, and so it was totally on strategy, because it was about us, and we were positioning ourselves differently as low overhead, high talent. Yeah. We also did this whole thing where we didn't show any of our work. It was all about getting people to be intrigued and call us and to get a meeting. And to this day, we're fortunate enough that we win about 90+% of our pitches. Also, because we're selective on what we pitch, we just don't pitch anything we absolutely think we're going to lose. That's where a lot of agencies do dumb stuff. Why pitch something you're not going to win? Mm-hmm. And but it did have its limitations, because the odd time a client would see this and go, what the hell is that? And it was just too much for them. And when I'd say to them, I'm like, that was to promote our business.
Yeah,
That's not what we're going to do for your business.
Yeah.
So those who kind of understood it got it, but the funny thing is it worked. And then after about 3 or so years, we changed it to where we're at now, and our business took off even more maybe after that. So
how old is your?
It's not as fun now, but it's pretty straightforward.
How old is your current site?
I think the current site's about, say, 2 years old. So we probably had the first site for about 5 years.
Yeah, you had it for a long time.
Yeah, so the one we have right now, 123w.ca, is pretty simple, but it's a simple story. It's basically, we believe in talent. We have now 13 working creative directors. So the difference in our place too is that
how many you said? 13 creative directors?
13 creative directors. So it's very disruptive.
How big is the team?
What's that?
How big is the team?
We've got now 36 people full time, and then we have awesome contract people, kind of like my previous model, depending on how much work we get and so on, which is great because just how business works now, like anything, is that there's this moments where you get a little bit busier and moments you go like this and so on. So we can actually manage the resources, that we have to what clients need a bit more. And there's lots of amazing talent out there that want to work on contract. Like we have some people we call full-time contract. They pretty well work with us for 50 weeks of the year. But some weeks they'll work 40 hours a week, and sometimes they work like 15 hours a week. But that flexibility fits their lifestyle. And I love that. Sometimes we do things where, for example, 2 of our creative directors who are awesome, they've got 2 young kids each, and so they've been a creative team for a while, and so they want to spend more time with their kids. So the deal we have with them is that they work 4 days a week, and they're more talented at 4 days a week than a lot of people are at 6 or 7 days a week. And so the way we work is, again, like the money we save on low overhead we put into the people. And then the other difference is the best creative people really want to create. Like, I always kind of use this analogy, like only in our dumb business do you get really talented at what you do, and then someone taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, I'd like to give you a title, and now you're going to be a manager. And the truth is that most creative people, they're wired different than people like me. They're brilliant. I'm jealous. I can't design. I can't art direct. I can't write like a really, really, really good writer. But they're also sometimes, and some creative directors are fantastic managers. But the good ones, the really, really creative people, they'll be the first to admit that they are the happiest when they're creating. Like, for example, like Sidney Crosby, if he had just won the Stanley Cup, if he had just scored 50 goals, the Pittsburgh Penguins would not make him the coach the next year. No. And so in our business, that's what they do. So we have a different model where the creative directors actually do the work. And so we have a higher level of staff. They actually do the work. And then we can give them at a good rate to our clients because we keep our overhead low. And so, we're not the cheapest agency in the world. And I don't want to be. Like, that's just not the positioning. Not that we don't give really good value and so on, and quite frankly, when you have very talented people doing the work, they do it more efficiently. So when you actually do the math, if you're talking hourly rate or projects and so on, the truth is that you could have a younger team, and we were all those people before, and they could spend 6 weeks on something and still have something that's 6.5 out of 10. But someone like my partner Rob Sweetman and Jeff Harrison and Brian Collins and all the other great creative directors we have, they can work on something for 2.5 weeks and be a 9.5 out of 10. And that is going to actually even cost you a lot less money, particularly if a creative team is doing the work and then it's all laddering up to all these creative directors. now you're paying more people to actually get something that's not as good. So that model, it's funny because when I say that we have these creative directors, many people in our industry go like, what the, and I love it. I love that they are confused on how we're doing. But I will tell you, obviously COVID's a different time period, and we're still doing fine. But pre-COVID, like, we've never been more profitable, and the clients are buying talent. The good clients want good people that are professional. The older we all get, if you're good and you're paying attention, you're more professional. Mm-hmm. And then also too is just over time you just kind of lose that layer of insecurity that a lot of people will have in our type of business. And then you get more open to feedback. And someone says something, you're like, you know what, that is a good idea. When I first started, a client could give you a feedback, and there would be people on my own team that they would go, oh, that's terrible. And you'd be like, actually, it's not terrible at all. It's actually really good feedback, and it's probably going to help us. But you're so damn precious that just because they said that you don't think it's so good. Well, we're not like that at all. And so for me, it goes again back to the team, is that the best teams are when the client team and then the agency team and then the production and media team and everybody is like a good sports team. Everyone plays their role, but everyone knows what the goal is, and everyone's very clear on how we collaborate together. And then the process itself is actually quite fun. So, and in today's world, it's one thing to actually win a client, but then you got to keep them. And it often doesn't matter if you could do the best, most effective work in the world, but if you have a team full of egocentric, challenging, diva-type people on your team, that client has another option. In fact, we've actually won a whole bunch of business because some other company had some people that were too difficult for the clients to work with. And they were like, hey, I like your work. I like you people. I've heard that you have a nice reputation. Once you get clients, you keep them. I've called a couple of them. Let's work together. And I'm like, sometimes my best new business is another agency doing something terrible. So, usually
that's what it is, actually.
That's simple.
Yeah. Somebody screws up, and that's it. About feedback, you know what, about feedback, I remember myself being always open-minded about feedback towards me. But what happened, I quit that industry because last 2-3 years of that industry, I'm like, I was hating it. Like, it wasn't me. Like, I didn't have a drive anymore. When I started, I had so much fun. Like, I could work 20 hours a day and, designing and managing people. And it was great. It was fun. And then later, like, when you met me, like, when we met, like, I wasn't doing it. Like, I didn't have any... I tried it again at another agency. I only lasted there for 6 months, and I literally quit. I called my wife, and I said... Hey, listen, I was already running the first academy I opened. And I said, like, hey, listen, poor but happy. And she's like, yeah, fuck it, quit it. Yeah, and I'm like, okay. So, and I literally, thanks to my wife, like, I opened my first one. And it was great. It was like, all of a sudden, I was doing what I was loving.
And that's the key to life, right?
Exactly.
That's the key, is because it's maybe you were at that stage earlier on in your life that was your passion. And it's also okay for people to evolve. I remember when I was younger, people used to go, man, you've changed. Almost like that was a bad thing, right?
Well, yeah, you do change through years.
You'd be like, no, I haven't. And then after a while, it's like, you're damn right, I've changed.
Of course, you should change.
And so yeah, you found when you cross-sect, this has taken me a while it took me many years to figure this out myself, but when you can cross-sect the passions, what you're passionate about, with also what you're good at, and then if you care about, your money or lifestyle, no matter what that aspiration is, of what is financially viable. You know, there are some people that, you know, they come to me once in a while and go, hey, I'm really passionate about this and I'm good at this. And then, you know, we start having a conversation. Is that a job or is that a hobby? Because you have to make some decisions on that. Because if you're, sometimes people's passion is like, it's awesome, but you're not going to be able to pay your rent or mortgage on that. At least the way you're thinking of it right now. If you come at it in a different way, maybe. But you might have a passion for a hobby. But that's also okay too. You know, and so I think you luck out like yourself and like myself if you can mix all those three things together where you can make some money and all those things and stuff like that and get personal joy out of it, like that makes you a wealthy man.
You got to be realistic about what you do in a way that I was realistic when I started the first one, Central MMA, and I knew this is not going to make money first year or 2 years or whatever. I knew I'm going to be literally went from, you know, 6 figures down to 0. You know, it wasn't easy. But then at the same time, like, I didn't go there to make money. This is, for me, that was secondary. I knew it would come, knowing the industry, researching the industry, understanding some of it. You know, those days I thought I understand. You know, now it's how many years? 8 years or so?
Yeah.
Now I know the industry.
Yeah.
That time you think you know the industry, but you're like, holy shit, this. Oh my God, this breaks, this mats are this. The people are, you know. And I was talking about feedback when I started it. And throughout these years, and then because of martial arts, because it's such a freaking humbling experience, when you think you're good, oh, there's always somebody better. There's always somebody can take your face smashed into the mats. Trust me, man. Or that glove is flying into your nose and you're like, oh shit, I thought I was good. You know, and the feedback thing really came to me throughout this year on me even stronger in a way that when people critique me, and I always ask for that feedback. I'm like, tell me what I do wrong. If I fucked up, if I did something wrong, tell me, please. Like, I open arms. Explain it to me. My ego is big, but it's reasonable. It's down to earth big. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, my ego is big. When I go fight in the tournaments, oh yeah, you better believe it. I'm coming I call it, you walk into emptiness when 2 people walk onto the mats. And when you walk into that emptiness, it's like, oh, I'm going to kill you. Like, I'm the best. I'm better than you. Then we shake hands, we get off the mats. That's it. I'm back to normal.
Yeah.
And you know, that's that thing about feedback is like exactly that. Like, this is, I give advice to my young, you know, like I'm 48 and I have 20-year-olds there, right? Yeah. Whatever, 20 plus, 17 plus. And I always tell them, one day you have to figure out who you are and never reject the feedback towards you. Ever. Like, if somebody tells you should do this, maybe it's stupid, maybe it sounds stupid, maybe it's wrong, still listen to it. Because in every long story, you might find something positive for yourself. Instead, I've had people, usually those people quit. When you tell them this is this and this and this is wrong, this and this and this is wrong, and they're already beating themselves on the chest, I'm the best, usually they're on last.
Yeah.
And they're like,
well, and also too is like coming from a hockey background, you know, it's just different now. You know, like there's a lot of people, particularly younger folks, not to pile on them, but the truth is that, you know, it's just a different era right now. Is a lot of people, they get positive feedback all the time, even when they're actually not even doing good. Or they don't get negative feedback, I should say, right? And so, you know, there's a whole thing. In fact, there's a great book out there called Grit, and it's a fantastic book. And it's even, there's stories in there. I won't tell the story properly, but like the West Point Academy in the States, where
I know the Grit. Who wrote it? Grit. I know this one.
I might even have it right here. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
No, it must be upstairs. But it's called Grit, And it's fantastic because what's happening now is, in fact, you can go online and take a grit test. And so what's happening is some companies are using this right now. So I'll screw up the story, but in a nutshell, at West Point Academy, the top military school in the United States, is where a lot of people end up becoming commanders and generals and all that stuff like that. They were finding this the last bunch of years that the dropout rate was tremendous. And so typically, even to get in that school, you've got to do really well at school, like in high school. You might be the captain of a football team. You might be involved in community events and charity events and so on. You look like you're the All-American. And what's happening is that these people were flunking out because they had never failed in their entire life. Mm-hmm. Everything was this. Mm-hmm. Life came easy. They did a lot of things really, really good, but then all of a sudden they got into something that was like hard, way, way harder, and they were failing. And so what was happening is the kind of people that, like, the so-called captain of the football team was flunking out, and it was that other guy or other person that was like on the bubble. But that person had a heart and grit and basically could live through the suck. And so I do believe in that. I think I think there's times for sure where you fail and it sucks. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't be happy with failing all the time and so on. Some people are too fine with failing, in my opinion, but some people quit too easy, and I even look at some moments when I was younger and so on. Like my parents, I have great parents that if I started a sport or some sort of activity, I was doing it. So I remember one year, I was playing a lot of hockey, and then I was playing travel baseball. Now, I was a better hockey player than I was a baseball player, particularly when I was on the younger group. And I wasn't playing much. My batting percentage wasn't great, all that stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know, summer's nice. I don't know if I want to do it. Well, there was no way that my parents were allowing me to quit. And I'm happy that they did that. Nowadays, little Johnny's the worst player on his team, whatever sport it is. Little Johnny doesn't play that much in the final tournament or so on. And little Johnny's upset. So guess what? If his parents have any means, little Johnny's going to Disneyland after. Back then, I'm kind of like I'm 49, so we're the same kind of Gen X group. We were kind of the last of that, right? And it's like, if you were in a 10-person race and you came number 9, and you went home and you told your parents, they wouldn't say, hey, good job, thanks for just showing up. They would be like, well, maybe you should start running a little more.
Train a little more.
Maybe a little practice would be good.
I have a big issue with these times about that stuff, about, trophy tournaments versus, participation medal tournaments.
Yeah, no.
This kind of stuff. Like when I was growing up, we're the same age. It's like when I was growing up, well, I was in sports all my life. Like it was always a struggle. It was always a fight. And if you lose, you fucking lost. I always tell my students, there is a saying in our sport, which I hate. One day you lose, another day you learn. Oh, no, sorry. One day you win, another day you learn. And I always tell everyone, listen, one day you win, another day you fucking lose.
Yeah.
And you learn from losing. Yes, you learn from both, but you have to accept that you lost at that moment. You have to understand that you lost, and then you analyze why. And it goes like jiu-jitsu is an amazing sport. Like you can translate it to life all over the place. Like even like in your industry. You lost a pitch? You fucking lost. You lost a pitch. Yeah. You did lose. So don't say yourself, well, guys, it's still a win. It's still a win because we competed and, they listened to us. Let's figure it out what went wrong. No. State of mind has to be like this. Guys, we lost. There's somebody, they chose somebody for some reason. Why? Because they're better. They're better at that moment, or whatever. Maybe there's a bribe or whatever. But they were better at that moment. So, same thing in the sport. Hockey is the same thing. Any sport is the same thing.
Yeah. Totally.
My sport is, I call it selfish team sport. It's when you're there on the mats, martial arts, MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all those sports, when you're there on your own on the mat, you have nobody else but your opponent in front of you and the ref.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't get there without the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. You can, some striking sports, you can even get to the goal that you want to achieve with one or two partners. Our sport, no way. You need multiple. You need a team, like team of people. And it's impossible to get to the result without it. So, but the point of, this pussification of the world, many people call it, me too, drives me insane. My son, I drill him every single day. Like when I'm he's at the cottage right now, or here, it's like, son, work. Every day you do something new, and if it doesn't work, keep working on it.
Yeah.
And then, I'll hug you and I'll tell you that I love you, yes, but I'll tell you, you better smarten up. You better do this and this and this. Because if you don't, guess what you're going to do in life?
Yeah. Well, and I'm all for that. Like I'm for that as long, and I know you're like this, but as long as it doesn't cross that line where one of my 15 minutes of fame, or probably my 15 minutes of fame, is that years and years ago, I started this whole initiative for Hockey Canada called Relax.
I remember.
And it was about getting parents to calm down at the rink. And
I don't know. Hold on. I don't know this one. What is that?
So there's a famous campaign that we did. And what happened, so the backstory is that when I was playing as a kid, I only played to junior C and junior B. So I didn't make it any further. But the interesting thing when you're a goalie, either you're on the ice and you're kind of mostly observing the game, whether it's in your own end or on the other end, or you're on the bench and you're observing anything. And particularly in minor hockey, sometimes the benches are so small, you're literally sitting there, with the parents or standing there. And so, most parents are all amazing, the vast majority, but there was always about, call it from between 2 and 5% that were absolutely just batshit crazy. I vividly remember playing in the playoffs when I was in Pee Wee. I think I was 10 years old against Walkerton, of all places. And I'm playing good. We're beating them. And at one point, for whatever reason, I look up at the crowd, and there is this woman. She must have been at least in her 70s. She's pretty well hanging over the glass going like this to me.
Are you serious?
I'm 10 years old. And I didn't remember being like, I'm just a kid. Like, holy cow. And
what position did you play?
What's that?
What position did you play?
I was a goalie.
Goalie, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like I would have played in the NHL. The problem I had is I just wasn't consistently good at stopping the puck, which is an issue.
Yeah, a little bit.
Once in a while, I could totally stop the puck, but consistently, no, it wasn't good enough. So anyways, we launched this campaign years later, and we launched it after a father in the States, in Massachusetts, killed another father after a hockey practice in front of their kids. So that happened around 2001 or 2002. And I just had a personal epiphany. And I pitched my agency at the time, which was Palmer Jarvis DDB. Alan Russell was the creative director, who you've met. And who's one of the best guys ever. And then I cold called Hockey Canada. Cold called them and go, I know you got this problem. And they're like, yeah. And at that time, it was getting nuts. Like parents were suing minor hockey organizations.
There were fights in the stands. I remember the videos too those days.
Oh, and there still is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We launched these series of ads, and it was a simple role reversal. It was these little kids yelling at their parents, and it just, that kind of fish out of water thing. It looked so ridiculous. Like there was one where this guy was golfing, and he's trying to putt it in, and his kid's just like, basically just calling him an idiot. And he's like, well, that was pathetic. And he was just going on. And then there's a line saying, what if kids pressured us the way we pressure them? And then the whole thing was called Relax, It's Just a Game. Well, it went across the world. I was on every damn talk show in the country. I was on CBC. Don Cherry hated it. Everyone loved it.
Why did Don hate it?
I know for a fact from Hockey Canada guys loved it. And then Don Cherry, like, one of the weirdest feelings in the world? One of the weirdest feelings in the world is, at the time, think of like 2002 when Don Cherry was about as big as he ever was, and you're sitting there at a bar having a beer, and Don Cherry is calling you an idiot. In one way, it was tough to watch. On the other hand, it made the campaign even more famous. So that went on. It was on Oprah, and it won Cannes Lions for the top public service campaign in the world, and it also won the most effective campaign in Canada. And to me, that was one. Going back again, so I loved working in advertising. I started over a while to get fairly good at it. Now I'm working at the best agency in the country with the most talented, creative people, and people were behind initiatives like that. And then I could cross-sect my passion. I'm talking about hockey no matter what for free. So it was the first hockey campaign I ever did, and that was took me about 12, 13 years in the industry. So got good at advertising, loved hockey, had a real issue that was bubbling at the surface, and it just took my career like that. And I was obsessed with this campaign. Like, I pitched everybody. When we launched it, it was on 2 national networks. I believe it was on CBC News World and CTV, the Newsnet, or whatever it was.
Listen, I remembering this campaign now. I didn't know it was yours. I remember remember you working with Green Man.
Yeah, I did that too. And so that was campaign. There was 17 camera crews, and Wayne Gretzky's dad Walter was there, and Bob McKenzie from TSN was hosting it. And my parents were in the audience. And, when you watch a movie and you see these things where someone's at the podium and there's the media's all there and the light bulbs are flashing, and so I actually had to introduce the campaign live on national TV, and so people at the office are watching that thing. And so, and I just represented all the other people. I was just, it was my initiative to do this thing, but the creative team, Daryl Gardner and Joseph Benici and Alan Russell, they all came up with the work. And
did Alan write it?
And I got more credit than I deserved.
Did Alan write
What's
it?
That?
Did Alan write it?
No, he was creative directing it.
Oh, he was creative directing it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's still to this day. Probably you can go on YouTube someday and take a look at it.
I will.
Put Hockey Canada Relax, This Is the Game. We did a couple ads and that, and then even a couple of years later, we did a campaign when I was working in the Toronto office. I love this spot. It was different. It was at that point we did that type of campaign, telling parents to calm down for 2 years, and that it ran its course. It definitely worked for a certain point. It was more about the parents every once in a while that would kind of lose it. It was kind of like a drinking and driving thing. I've done many drinking and driving ads, don't drink and drive. Those are effective to the people that you might have that extra drink and go, you know what, I shouldn't do that. The drunks, that's more of a legal enforcement thing. They have to have police on the road, and they got to find these guys and take it away. And so it worked in a certain point, but it never fully worked. And the reason why is, some of these parents were doing some really bad stuff. And in some minor hockey associations, they were getting, kicked out for the season and so on. But too often that people were getting a free pass. To me, if you're an adult, whether you're male or female, and you are hanging over the glass, swearing and yelling and threatening a 12-year-old referee, at a sports game, you should not be allowed. In fact, I think you should be charged. But you should definitely not be allowed again to go to that game. You need to, like, what are you teaching your kids, right? And any of the other kids, right? And so that was a classic one where, that helped out. But even going back to the failure thing that you mentioned before in feedback, like, I actually go to this thing, a CEO school of all things. So there's this company called McKay CEO Forums, and started by Nancy McKay, out of Vancouver. And there's a couple different groups like it, like YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and so on. But there's about way north of 500 to 1,000 CEOs across Canada that we go to school. So you pay some money. And at first, I had never even heard of these guys. And we had this moderator. So you get basically, I did this for 4 years. And we'd have a moderator. And this person was our moderator, Linda Oglov. Is like one of the smartest people you've ever met. She helped run the Vancouver Olympics. And she's done all these fantastic things. And she just has a presence about her. A presence that and it's not ego. She's smart. She's been there. She's done that. And she's like that person that even someone like you and I, if she tells you and I what to do, and she is very calm, you and I are going to do whatever she tells us to do. She's got that way of her. And then there's up to 15 CEOs from different industries. And we would spend a day together every 6 to 7 to 8 weeks. And we'd go through, we'd have a speaker often, and it would be everything from, here's some stuff on mental health in the workplace, or even little things like sleep experts. You need to all sleep more. Like, you talk about this for hours. Like, that whole thing of you work hard and sleep, that's bullshit. You actually need to sleep, or everything is going downhill, particularly if you're in sports.
Believe me.
And then what we do is we have to do some homework, and then you bring in a business problem or opportunity, and the rest of the CEOs, they actually help figure it out for you. So you might have a thing, for example, of like
wait, you actually go to a school, like a building, like a room, or it's like a Zoom meeting?
It's like a virtual school. It's a great idea. It's a virtual school. So one time it might be at my office in the boardroom, and the next one is at someone else's office. So we just kind of move around, which is actually kind of nice.
Oh, so you do actually meet in person?
Yeah, we meet in person.
Okay,
right now, I'm not doing it right now, but I'm assuming that they're probably doing it on Zoom or Skype.
Zoom,
or one of these type of tools. So what's great though is that they give you shared device, and so they help you solve your problem. So I've learned a lot of these things, and so we would do a retreat and so on. So we'd say a couple things that I always kind of love, like feedback is a gift. And they would just say it over and over. And like I'm telling you, when you're in a room with 15 CEOs, like everyone's a AAA personality, right? Like they're male or female, they're alpha.
They're all alpha.
And so, you want to have your act together when you have to go and do your thing, and you want to have your act together when you're giving some feedback based on their issues. But the one thing that was a complete life changer for me was the first year I did it, and it goes back again to failure and grit, is we had to do this whole exercise analyzing our lives and our careers, and which is kind of hilarious because I get paid money to analyze brands. Like I've worked on everything from Coca-Cola to Mercedes to Audi to Subaru to Labatt to you name it. And, spend all this time analyzing these brands, the consumers, all this stuff like that. But as a typical male, I never analyze myself. It's one of the benefits of being a guy. We often don't super analyze. But I had to do this whole exercise. And it actually was quite emotional for everybody to do, because part of the exercise was, 5 of the most important people in your life, and 5 people that mean X to you, and give me some examples where, literally the 5 highlights of your life, or the like the things that didn't work out so well. And then we had to graph our career and all the highs and all the lows. And here's what I basically learned. I learned that for much of my life, I had a fear of failure. So, and I think it's probably a little bit from my upbringing, a little bit playing sports as a goalie. When you play a goal in a sport like that, probably even a little bit like MMA, it's kind of like you either win or you lose. And a lot of times the goalie is the difference. And if you let some really bad goals in, your team's going to lose and you're going to look like an idiot. Yeah. So a lot of times, I think when I was even playing sports as a goalie with that type of pressure, I liked the pressure, and but I wanted to win, but I really just didn't want to let my teammates down and the team down. And then even at work, I kind of, as I started to think back at it, I worked my butt off. Like I put nights, weekends. I'm not even kidding you. I probably on average would work 40-something weekends a year. Not because I had to, because I just had to. And to get ahead of things, I was more of a Sunday worker, even if it was a couple hours. And so I think a lot of it was I just didn't want to suck in life. It wasn't about being great. It was actually about not being shit. And then what happened is that my career, I started literally, you couldn't get any lower than I started in the ad business. I was a media estimator getting paid $15,000 a year, working 50 to 60 plus hours a week. And so, but over time, I worked my way up, and I was not an overnight success. And, but then later on, as I started to move up, I was running this company as general manager, Low Roche, and we ended up winning the agency of the year. Like there's thousands of agencies across the country. I was on the management team, but I was obviously one person of many talented people. And it was a crazy place to work, quite frankly. Owner was brilliant, but challenging. I learned much from her, and but I was kind of miserable just because
I remember that name. I remember that name. Yeah.
It was just not an easy place to work, so I left that place. And then I went to do a startup called Zulu Alpha Kilo, and basically, things went pretty good, and but the same thing, I wasn't super happy. I struggled working with the owner there. Just he has a very different style than the style I like to work with, and quite frankly, I prefer mine. But so it didn't work out, and I quit very abruptly. And because I was very unhappy, and I knew I'd get another job, and that was not a big deal. And I actually wanted to start my own company, so I'm happy in hindsight I did that. But what I learned was that every time I failed, I was like a ball. Usually, if you take a tennis ball and you pick it up and you drop it, at best it's going to actually bounce half. Yeah. And then it's going to go even half of that, half of that, and half of that, right? Yeah. Well, what I learned about myself after finally analyzing my damn career was if a tennis ball was failure and I dropped the tennis ball, it would hit the ceiling after. It just, so literally in that moment, I had an aha moment that I have been afraid of failure, fear of failure for much of my life. And every time I took a big calculated risk and put the effort in it, and every time I had a failure, I learned from it. I don't like failure. Believe me, I'm not comfortable with failure, but I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? Or what can I do better? Or maybe I shouldn't even be hanging, fuck those guys. Maybe that's sometimes too. Sometimes you're just doing the wrong thing with the wrong people. But you have to also take personal responsibility that on all those things too. No matter what's happening, you have to actually be accountable to that. And so basically now I live my whole life of being absolutely not fearful of failure. So now it's more like from that to now just being more like relentless and having grit and knowing that embracing failure is if I know now that if shit goes down, it ain't going to be easy. It's going to suck. Like, look what's happening now with COVID, right? Our business was never stronger going into this thing. And like, great, 2020, we're going to have this best year ever. January, February was great. March was going well. Yeah. Bam. Now, on the negative side, damn, just as we're really making good money and all these things are happening, we hit this, everything that everybody hit. On the positive side is because we went into this thing so strong, we have kept every one of our full-time employees working. That's awesome. We have not let anyone go. We've not reduced anyone's salaries. We have been very communicative on, we have a 6-point plan on what we're going to do as this goes on. So we've been communicating by Zoom calls and so on to the whole team. My partners and I, in 5 seconds, agreed on the strategy. We're gonna be people first. And so now the goal is not necessarily to increase our revenue by blank amount. Our goal for 2020 is to keep on keeping on. And right now, so far, it's a win because by being open and transparent with everybody and telling everybody that, we are going, like admitting that we're going through a tough time right now. But here's what our plan is. First and foremost, like when it first happened, we're not laying anyone off, in the month of April. I can't commit to May right now because I have no idea what's going to happen in the next couple weeks. Our next thing will happen is that because we've always been conservative in our cash flow and so on, is we are prepared to drain some of our company bank account, in order to keep people working, both for your mental health, there's so many things we're all stressed out about right now. If we can just keep that, the anxiety of not having an income, that's good. The third thing that we're going to do is if shit hits the fan, is that we're going to take the bullet first and hardest. And I'm proud of that because, and we all agreed on that in seconds. It was just like, if you own a company and things are going well, you deserve to make more money. I 100% do. But if you start a company and you're running a company and things are not going well, you got to take a hit, in my opinion. Like, and we've all worked at these places where the people running the company, they're even at this time, it's a different time, but generally, they're the problem, and they're getting rid of everyone else. And you're like, no, we're going to take the first hit, and then, and if it gets tougher down the line, we'll ask everyone if we can reduce their salaries by a small, certain percentage, because we're already taking ours down a lot more. To the point where we won't even take money the whole year. I'd rather have people working. And then, if it gets even tougher, then we'll just basically do like a work share thing. That, okay, can you work 3 days a week? And just to be fair. And then the absolute worst case scenario is having to reduce some of our staff. But everyone's rallied, like totally rallied. It's been 9 weeks now. We just won 2 things today. Thank goodness.
Really?
And so, that said, is we're doing okay. We're not killing it. We're doing okay. We're keeping people working. But I see that as a win because there's a lot of companies in our industry right now that have had to cut people, and there are some companies that they cut a lot of people like a week and a half after this all happened. You're like, wow, like obviously if you weren't doing well, before this and then you got hit, then that's a tough break. But if you are doing well and you're just throwing your staff overboard into the waters,
small agencies will suffer, guaranteed.
I think, but the big ones are suffering even more right now.
Probably big ones are, but again, big ones have so much staff, so many people. They're going to get rid of a bunch of them, and the 75%, whoever they keep, as long as they prove that they lost whatever percentage of business, they get 75% salary from the government, which we're doing it for myself,
well, we're taking advantage of those things that we're eligible for.
Yeah,
too,
why not?
right?
Of course,
that's helped out because if you're like, it's basically you get 75% up to a salary of 58,000,
59,
right?
Yeah, 59.
And a lot of our talent is like very experienced, higher end talent, so it doesn't cover 75% of their total salary. But you know what? It does help. It does help a bit. It can put us more in the black, or at least at a break-even area.
Yeah.
And if you know what, like I have to say, is I'm not a partisan person. I kind of just vote from election to election on who I think is going to do the right job for my own values and the country. But I have to say, I'm pretty impressed overall with a lot of leadership overall in Canada. We're far from perfect, but like in British Columbia, for example, like our premier, Morgan, and we have this the health expert, Dr. Bonnie Henry. Like, our COVID cases are like lower than almost anywhere in the Western world, and she has done, like, there should be, in my opinion, there should be a statue about 300 feet high on this person. She's got this amazing background. She's a military background. She was in Africa during Ebola. She was in Toronto during SARS. And she is this calm, and she's informative, but she also has this thing of empathy, you can tell too. And she's just done a phenomenal job. And I think Trudeau and stuff has done a pretty good job too overall. Particularly when you're seeing some of the stuff that's happening in the United States right now, and on what's happening, and so I think in Canada, I think Doug Ford has
Doug Ford, man,
a lot of friends
surprised many people, like front lines. The dude is doing the job, man.
Yeah. And I like the fact that even a bunch of these groups, like we have a federal party that's liberal, he's conservative. In BC, it's NDP and Green. And, I do like the fact that a lot of people are working together, whereas you see some other countries, particularly our neighbors in the South, where, people are fighting because of politics, and people are dying.
People are dying.
Like, this is like, not only people are dying, but this is affecting our businesses and so on. And on that note, like, I can't speak to, like, I think it's very scary that a lot of people with zero scientific and medical background seem to speak like they know what they're talking about. So those are the type of things that I just shut the hell. Like, I don't shut the hell up a lot, clearly.
Well, didn't you know that?
I kind of defer to the experts here. So.
Yeah, didn't you know that Bill Gates started the whole thing?
Oh my God, that whole 5G thing, and then it's because I've been in media, kind of advertising media my whole life. Like, the fact is, when someone says the media has done all this thing, created all this thing, and blah, blah, like, I'll be the first to admit that sometimes the media, makes things worse on a whole bunch of fronts. But it's all follow the money, man. It's follow the money. And I'm telling you, it is the worst decision by the thing for the media, for basically all these businesses to close and so on. Is like the New York Times, for example. The New York Times, like, their readership is up. Like, I'm paying $4 a week to get it online now, so it's fantastic. And like, I get the Globe and Mail, CBC News, New York Times. I want to look at reputable kind of sources, even though they're all not perfect, but their readership is up, but their advertising revenue is down because, like, so many advertisers, they're closed. And so So the media is not creating this thing. They're reporting it. They may not all be doing collectively a great job day in and day out, but and some people are doing a fantastic job, right? And but it's an effed up time. It's really screwed up.
No, it's screwed up times. It's never happened before. Like people compare it to SARS, people compare it to a bunch of other stuff, but it's never been global.
Yeah.
The fear has never been created this high. Whether it's real or not, it's debatable, right? Well, it's real. People are dying and people are getting sick. And it's you can't compare it to other ones. To SARS, for example. SARS, how many people got infected? 600, 800, something like this? 2003,
and I was up
right?
in DC, and that didn't even come out here.
Didn't come out. It was Toronto.
That's where we're and I think that's what kind of happened, right? Because we all, we're all educated people watching the media and so on. And then you're like, here's another shitty disease, coming out of, Asia and stuff like that. That
that's
sucks.
what happened. Yeah.
And then you're like, well, it looks like they're going to contain it, and the odd case might get to Vancouver, Toronto, but I'm sure that they'll put them in some special tent and have hazmat suits, and we'll all be fine. It's just, unfortunately, a handful of people won't be though. But all that stuff that happens somewhere else, and then it's kind of you'd be like just being that person on a beach, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that wave looks really, really big. And it's just coming closer and coming, and then all of a sudden it was like, shit, and that's what it happened to us all. Like, this is so. I can't say it's unprecedented because this actually happened 100 years ago, the Spanish flu. So it's just we're terrible human beings at actually learning from history. Because everything repeats over and over again. You just wear different clothes.
Spanish flu comparison, that flu was a killer flu. But how many millions it killed across the world, right? But another thing, what I like these days, and again, like you said, you can say whatever you want about leadership. Politics are so above my head. It's so above majority of people's heads. People can scream and yell all they want, but the leadership is actually doing good things. And comparing to like Spanish flu, right, 100 years ago, these days technology is way better. Science knows way more, and the way they're reacting to create a vaccine, if you for it or pro or not for it. Again, it's like my wife, I'm not vaccinating anybody. I'm like, just give me the freaking needle. I'll shoot it myself right now.
Don't even get me started on the vaccine.
Yeah, and it's, I think it's a good thing. That's they're all reacting like this. They all put us in isolations. And we're going to come out just stronger, I think.
I think so. I think, there's always winners and losers, right? The issue is the people that are going to be like, you and I are lucky, right? Like in the whole scheme of things, like it sucks for all of us. Like, hey, like economically, this is not good and so on. But, some people have jobs, like you hear these heartbreaking stories. Like there was a true story about a guy in Detroit that was a bus driver. And early on, like somebody was coughing in the bus, and he got really upset. And he went on the news about it. Like he was really upset that they were coughing in the bus. Well, the guy literally died of COVID a couple days later. And so some people, are doing these jobs because that's their responsibility, and they've got to pay their bills and make money, and it's gotten better week by week, but. I think one of the big things that we're all learning is that it's just been the logistics of all this stuff. Like, I'll give you an example, is my father, unfortunately, has leukemia. It sucks. And this whole thing's really tough on him because, like, he is, like, in the absolute red zone. If he ever gets this thing, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
So my mom and dad are doing all the proper quarantine stuff. and it's not easy. But he would go to the hospital at the start of this because he's got to get blood transfusions and he's got to get chemotherapy and so on. Well, you're pretty well going through the same door and turning left to go to the chemo section as the person that's coughing and got a fever turning right. And it's just all these little things, you know, like even on community spread, like you could be fantastic at this 98% of your day, but it's the 2% when you screw up or let your guard down or you touch your face when you go on shopping or whatever, or that's the thing that's terrifying of not knowing, you know.
I started catching myself at forgetting washing my hands again, because I'm just like, all right, fine, I'm comfortable, nobody's getting sick, distance everywhere, you know, it takes half an hour to get inside the grocery store here. Well, sometimes it doesn't take any time, but sometimes it does.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I get home and I'm like, I touch my face. I have sinus issues all the time, so I touch my nose, I touch my face, and I'm like, I didn't use any sanitizer. I didn't shit. And for me, yeah, fine, I'll get sick. I think I'll be okay. You know, being in the sports, our lungs work like horses. You know, like we're gonna get sick. Like if we get sick, we're gonna get through it. But you just said about your father. I have father-in-law at the cottage who's 72 or 73 right now. 73, just turned, and heart issues. Lung issues, bunch of stents inside his, you know, blood vessels. So if I get sick, and I'll be okay, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, fever. Okay, great, I'll watch TV, you know. And he's gonna get sick. He's screwed. He's done.
I know.
That's
the tough thing, right?
That's what people don't get. This is what, you know, not every family has an elder person, but many families have elder people in their circle of family, right? And kids don't even show it. This guy is, you know, doesn't even show the symptoms, but he goes home, there's an elder person. And look at the statistics. How many percent of passed away people are elder people? Huge. Yeah. Gigantic. Right?
Well, yeah. Like out here, it's like 86%.
Yeah, it's like around 70 or something like this here.
Then there's some anomalies, right? Because it's like in sports, every once in a while you hear these stories. It's heartbreaking where someone is this like amazing athlete and has like a full-on heart attack during like a basketball practice and dies. Yeah. And like that's the scary thing too, is that you have no idea sometimes that people around you that someone might have a condition. It's just you would never actually test for something like that. Yeah. And or maybe you somehow just got even some sort of worse version of it, or for a whole bunch of reasons, fatigue, lack of sleep. I do believe stress.
Stress is the biggest
levels.
One. Stress is the biggest one.
My dad, when he got leukemia, I ended up getting pneumonia.
Really? Eh?
And I was just stressed out of my mind. And
your immune system
we were
went
all
down.
shocked. I was living here, and this is like almost 2 years ago now. And I am positive I got so stressed out and internalized it, being a male, and I ended up getting, like, I didn't really do anything differently than I had before. And I could not shake that thing. I basically had it for like 2.5 months. And it's, you know, I don't know if you had pneumonia before, but, you know, it just sucked. It was more like walking pneumonia too. So it was like, I could still do stuff and go to work, but you feel like you're 30 years older than yourself.
Yeah. No, I've had it a few years ago. It
sucked.
Horrible.
But so I think, and that's, you know, even now is, I think, you know, you'd be lying or lucky if the levels of stress, like you think about the 7 billion people in the world right now, on how, you know, certain countries, whether it's war or famine or all these things, like, you know, there would be spikes and so on, for sure. But the whole, and it's mostly no one knows what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. Almost everything else has been kind of played out a bit. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, we're in a recession. That sucks. Well, generally, we're going to be out of this in about 6 months or so, depending on what your industry is, maybe a year, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we could be talking in a year from now, and like, there's a very good chance things are going to get better, and then they're going to get a little bit worse, because we're all going to put our guard down, and especially in the summer months, and more people are going to get this through community spread, and we're going to just keep on going, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, 5 steps forward, 9 steps back. Like, that's what makes me the most nervous. Whereas it's like all this, like, it's basically been 9 weeks now, and many of us have been bunkering down, doing everything we're supposed to do. I'm just worried that a handful of shitheads are going to just keep this thing going until a very long time.
No, I think second wave will happen.
Oh, for sure.
Second wave.
It's already happening. I read a thing in South Korea.
Yeah.
You start, like, that's actually one of the weird things too, is this, like, we so much get the local news, the national news, and then, and just because it's easy, we get all this stuff from the States, and, much of it when it's related to Trump is just, out there, right? But we don't hear a lot versus a very short story what's happening in all these other countries. And so right before this all happened, I was in Silicon Valley. I was doing another executive course with this group, and there was all these people running companies and CEOs and owners and stuff like that from all over the world, like India, Italy, Sweden, France, Bangladesh, you name it. So we've a lot of us have been keeping in touch, and you actually get better news from the people that really live there of what's really happening. Of course. Sweden's taken a different approach to this, and it's been very polarizing.
I communicate with a couple of my Swedish friends all the time.
Yeah,
and I ask exactly what's happening.
Yeah, because I read this stuff, and then one day I'm like, wow, they're crazy. Like, they literally have like 12 times the amount of cases that Norway has. And so you're like, well, that's really bad. And then on the next day, you'll read an article that they'll be like, well, that's actually really good though, because, keeping the economy going and blah, 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 and, and stuff like that. And so you literally don't know what to believe. And quite frankly, even when you talk to people, they don't even know what to believe, because they're kind of, from what I understand from talking to a couple of people, is that the government's kind of doubling down on a bunch of this stuff, right? Where it's just like, you make those decisions, the rest of the world goes this way and you go that way. Yeah. Well, that's politics covering your ass. So I have no idea if are they doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And clearly some countries, like Italy and Spain did the wrong thing they waited too late. But then if you look at read what happened in Greece actually moved really quickly. And in Canada, again, like one of the things that, thank goodness, our healthcare system, we definitely pay for it, but our healthcare system is coordinated. Like, for example, in British Columbia, which I believe is in most of the country, I believe does it this way, there's basically 5 different regions. So there's the Vancouver Coastal Health, and then there's other ones. And then this Dr. Bonnie Henry, she's basically the leader of all this stuff. So if she sits there on one day and says, okay, all of you, 30% of the hospital beds have to be left open for COVID. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. They all have to do that. So they do it. That's their job. Whereas
I didn't know that.
Most of the hospitals in the States, at least the good ones, they're private.
Yeah.
And they make most of their money. So many of the hospitals in the United States are actually like their businesses. And they make most of their money on long-term health patients, with a room, because whether it's insurance or people are paying for it or whatever. And so they're not coordinated. Like, they're not working together, and they're not talking, they're not communicating. Like, that's the thing you learn most about this thing. It's like communication.
Yeah, there's
if
like
you're doing it, helping, and if you're not, it's not.
Some of their hospitals are half empty, 70% empty, and some of their hospitals are full. I spoke to a couple of my friends in Cali, And they're like, yeah, we have a hospital here. Everyone, like, I know people that work there, and they say it's like pretty much empty, and the emergency room is closed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's really weird. And then one guy, he's in Colorado, and he's like, yeah, here's the hospital completely full. And it's like the 10 minutes drive. There is another hospital, 50% empty apparently. So it's
I know
you're right about coordination.
And even like the other thing too is just like you know, if you don't have health care in the United States, and if you don't have an insurance. Health insurance, is there are people dying at home because
they can't afford it.
They're worried that they can't afford it, and then maybe I can wait it out, and then they wait too late, or they don't go at all.
Speaking of insurance,
a couple of weeks ago in New York, they traced back like 3,000. I believe it was 3,000 plus deaths.
Yeah,
where people just died at home.
At home, yeah. I saw the graphs.
So oh, gosh, like it's I don't know, like this.
Yeah, speaking of insurance,
it's a nightmare.
They didn't approve the jazz splint for my arm, bastards. You know what it is? Oh yeah, speaking of hockey and skating. So I put skates back on this year. Well, last year I did too, but this year I actually took the hockey stick into my hands again. And I was like, I started skating and I started figuring out I'm not 15 years old anymore. I figured it out really quickly. It's like my hips are not working. Like it's like I'm trying to do all the stuff that I used to do. I'm like, oh shit, I'm actually going to fall. And I tore all my triceps here, right?
Wow.
How? I fell on the ice. I did this. Person was falling in front of me, so I kind of tried to save myself, and I did the spinneroo, and I fell, tore all 3 tricep tendons fully, had surgery, and now this is my straight arm.
Holy cow! It looks like you got a nice tricep there.
Oh yeah, it's here, it's connected. At least I hope so. But this is straight arm, so they have to straighten it, right? And the doctors is like, yeah, usually people can't bend it. You can't straighten it. I'm like, well, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have put me in the bent arm cast. And then it's like, yeah, your bicep is too big or something, and it just locked up. I'm like, well, yeah, you're a sport doctor. You should have probably figured it out that my bicep is too big and put me in a straight cast. Anyway, we do have a plan at the gym, and decent plan, insurance plan, and they said no. It's a literally like medieval device, dude. It's like it's a plastic metallic thing, like the medieval torture device when they stretch you, by 4 limbs, right? This one is like it attaches here. There's a joint spot over here, and you twist it up, and it keeps breaking your arm straight.
Oh wow!
And you have to do it 3 times a day, 30 minutes each. I'm like, okay, let's do it. That freaking thing costs $1,000 a month.
Jeez. It's like they should pay you to do that.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, I'm like, all right, fine.
How much vodka did you have when you were doing it?
That's exactly it. I'm like, okay, keep arm barring me, keep drinking it. I'm like, I have no pain right now. But you know what? I said screw it, and I started working out the last couple of days. First days in like 3 months because of the surgery and the injury. And I started hanging, and it's starting to get, I can see the progress. And my father-in-law, so we decided to recreate that machine. So it's a big 2x6 board. It's gonna get attached to my shoulder, and there's gonna be a belt on this side, and we're gonna tighten it.
Oh
gosh! Yeah, it's gonna be painful. It's gonna be
fun. You're gonna have to put that on YouTube.
Oh, I will. I'm doing it. Oh, for sure. My other idea that I'm going to do is going to be Professor Fit, and why Professor is because I'm being called Professor because of Jiu-Jitsu. I kind of think it's funny because professors are in universities, but we are called professors, and I'm like Professor Fit. Like I'm an athlete all my life. And I've been fit the last few years, very fit. But this year, it's like because of injuries and stuff, not that fit. So I'm going to start posting videos every second day, 2 to 5 minutes videos of me working out and doing my progress. I'm like, why not?
Yeah, I'll watch those. I need some more motivation. I put a little dumbbell gym and a couple things in the garage there, and I've been doing some store stuff and biking, but I don't know about you. Like, obviously you're injured right now, but like I go to gym like 5 days a week. Yeah. I do stuff on.
I wanted to talk to you about this. Listen, there was a.
Yeah, I got jacked a couple times.
Jacked a couple of times. You won that award. What gym did you go to in Vancouver?
Oh yeah, it's called Studio. It used to be called Studio 55, and now it's called Studio.
Where is it?
And there's actually one. There's one in Vancouver, and there's one in like LA Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And it's a great gym because like when I met you, I was just I used to be I'm kind of. I go up and down and stuff like that. I have the ability to gain weight very quickly. I can gain muscle and I can gain a belly, like you name it. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I like beer and food too much, and so I'll never be skinny. But I joined this because I did join a CrossFit gym many years ago, and I hurt myself bad. Like I never had back issues in my life, and I just absolutely screwed my back up. And for the first time in my life, I was actually afraid to go to the gym.
Wow.
And so then I worked out at a condo gym. That's probably when we were working together, and it wasn't really working. I was just doing a wuss workout, just like no intensity.
No, I get it. I believe me, I know.
So I was just like I was at that stage in my life because I was right around 40 something, and it's just like. I need to work out with a trainer, and I need two things. I need someone to push me. I need someone to be positive personality, even if they're giving me shit. And number 3, don't hurt me. I'm like, I'm not going to be a pro athlete in this point. I use working out for energy, both and for release, both physical and mental. But the mental health aspect of it is probably the number one thing for me because of my job and so on. I work out in the mornings. And, so a couple of years ago, they had a body transformation thing, and it was all they tested you on, everything. You stood on this special thing and your body mass and fat percentage and all these different things. And, of course, right before, I was just like, I had this gigantic couple meals, and so I probably gained a couple pounds before that. So I was hovering around 240 or something like that. And then, it was 2 months, 8 weeks, and I basically, it's as you well know, it's the diet.
Of course.
There's times where I have worked out just as hard and flat.
Yeah.
Still like muscles, but still big, right?
Layers of fat.
Having some beer here and there. But I monitored every damn thing I ate for 2 months. And after a while, the funny thing is, I kind of like the competitive spirit of it.
Well,
and I
was just going to say it.
Because I'm an office worker now, I'm on my ass all the time, and I miss the competition, of playing competitive sports, but I can compete against myself.
And you hate losing. And you hate losing.
Yeah, I hate losing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, too, is I am literally twice the age of most of the people that I was competing against.
Wow.
I could be the father of most people.
I didn't know that. I thought you were a guy kind of all similar.
No, I wasn't in the old farts division. I was against 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds and so on. And so I had this trainer who was ex-British commando, this awesome guy named Ross, and he's like, I think you can win. And it was kind of funny because he's like, I think you can win because you're just fat enough. You couldn't win if you're already in great shape. You had to be gross and then get less gross. And so I'm like, okay, well, the first, they always do when you're a bit overweight, you eat well, and you work out with some intensity, like pounds start flying off, and I'm feeling kind of good. And I will say this: I didn't do any weird fad diet. Like I didn't do any intermittent fasting. I didn't do any keto because I can't. I've tried all that bullshit in the past, but for me, I can't think if I don't eat like carbs, protein.
You need carbs for brain.
And I'm literally like I'm like great. Then I'll lose some weight, but my company will go to hell because I'm so ineffective at work. And I'd say the last week and a half ago, like I would cut down on my carbs and stuff like that. So I end up winning. I lost like 31 pounds.
Yeah, I remember 30 number.
And I got completely shredded. It was awesome.
I remember.
Back then I was balding, and I had like Bruce Willis hair before he shaved it. Like I had like strategically placing my hair, and then it gave me the confidence that like I'm like the worst is when you're the last to know that you're going bald. And so I shaved that off, and it actually looked better and than having like 25 strands of hair. And so my wife really liked it, and so on. And so the only problem is, so I end up winning $10,000.
Yeah, I know. You really won it, eh?
Yeah, I even got the.
Yeah, I remember that picture. You holding that check. Yeah.
They still use me in promotional materials, and then so that was fun. But then what happened is like the next year, you start to enjoy your summer and stuff like that, and so 2 years later, I wasn't quite as heavy, and I was been a lot more muscular over the last couple of years, but. Again, I started just to gain some extra weight and so on. I started, quite frankly, getting the workout fatigue. I think every once in a while, when you're just doing the same general stuff, you just kind of get that, adrenal fatigue or what they call it, and you lose that kind of, momentum. So not this year, but last year, I went in it again, and I'm like, shit, I got to really shred now.
I didn't know you won the second time. I didn't see that.
So I'm in better shape. I'm in better shape the second time around than I was. And I didn't think I was going to win. But I'm like, I just want to see again how far I can really take this thing. And so I basically, same sort of thing. I didn't, we started like mid-January or something like that, which is nice because you're not going right after the holidays. And same thing as I binge ate like crazy right before, though. To the point was like I binged so much like the day or two before that I just didn't even want to eat anything crappy again. Like I ate all these donuts and stuff. Like it was like, and it actually worked. And so then I was working. I kind of learned from last time and so on. And then but this time it was they had also opened up this place in Beverly Hills, so I was up against them too. And in LA, they're fitness obsessed, right? So I didn't even know who I was competing against. In Vancouver, I knew I was doing well versus everybody, males, females, everybody. But so then, this is from MMA stuff. I'm like, I'm actually going to see if I can cut weight too. And cutting weight, it's not just how much you'll lose, because they also looked at your body, like your muscle and stuff like that. But at that stage too, I've always just been curious of what these boxers and MMA guys.
So what did you do?
And so I did the 5-day cut weight thing where you drink like 2
What did you do?
gallons of water,
eh?
all that stuff. And then, and then down left, and then the last day or so, I was just going. I didn't have access to a sauna. I was in a steam room.
That's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, so I'm in this health club, and I'll be honest, is that I was starting to get worried. I'm so damn competitive. I was starting to get worried that I was just going to pass right out in the steam room because no one else was there and so on. And I was, I thought I was doing 2-a-day workouts. I was going to like the cryo chamber because my knees were starting to hurt a bit and so on. And I started to just shred. And I basically, that time, I lost 42 pounds in 60 days. And I was shredded. But
How much did you lose in 5 days?
Oh, I think I lost 12 pounds. Like, I was basically going, like, I was pretty well going exactly like I was the time before.
And then you did 5 days of cutting.
I'm not going to win at 31, or I'm like, I wanted to at least beat what I did. So I won the Canada version, but some guy in LA lost like 67 pounds. Like, he was just huge. Mm-hmm. He looked incredible, though, I have to say. Mm-hmm. He looked incredible after. It was like he should have been on a TV show. Like, I had a good improvement, but I really wasn't in that bad a shape to begin with. I just kind of got, like, I probably did better muscle look and stuff like that, like more bodybuilder, but he just looked, holy cow, like hats off to this guy. I hope he's kept it off. But that was like life-changing for him. Like, he looked like he was about a month away from having a jammer, and he just looked fantastic after, and so good for him. But so I won it again. But I didn't win 10 grand. I forget what it was. It was a couple grand. But yeah, so I'm not doing it again, though, because...
Why not?
Well, I'm actually still... I've kept a lot of it off, although I could lose some more weight again. But it's just... I've also learned, too, I can do anything clearly for 2 months, maybe 3,
it hurts.
Maybe 4.
It hurts.
But training that hard at my age with the job I have... Like, it's just impossible. Like, something's going to give. Either, right now I want to continue to be happily married. Mm-hmm. I want to be with my family. I want to do outdoorsy things. I want to have decent company, good company, and I want to be healthy and do all those things and stuff like that. So I can't be at the gym for 3.5 hours a day.
No, but now. You're still working out. Like, it's important to work out.
It's just I gotta, I just need to monitor what I eat better. And when I monitor what I eat and drink, I'm fine. When I don't, I'm not.
But you're not a drinker. I'm a drinker.
I don't drink like tons, but like I had a beer before this, so I was just thirsty.
Yeah, well, yeah.
and it was fantastic. And but yeah, I don't sit there and pound a whole bunch of beers. I got too much stuff to do the next day. Mm-hmm. But on a nice day, like in the wintertime out here, I snowmobile. So we'll go up on the glacier, and then we'll crack open a beer, like only one, because we're up on a glacier, and it's cold up there, and it's very dangerous. So you do not want to be out of your mind up there. But, when you're up in paradise like that, and for me that is paradise, and you can sit there with your friend, particularly when it's getting a bit sunnier up there, and crack open a beer and just enjoy that beauty. Like,
fuck, I envy you so much. I see your pictures, and it's like I've been seeing them for years now, and I'm like, freaking asshole. I'm like it's like I got my snowmobile here. I sold it. I don't have a snowmobile anymore because it's like there is no snow here. It's like and with this business, if you want to go snowmobiling, maybe in a few years I'll have a freedom of taking a week off or 2 weeks off in the winter and go up north. But locally here, my cottage is hour and a half. Simcoe Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my first.
Well, it is different, like we're just lucky. Like, there's so many that whole area is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But being on a lake is very different than what we get to do out here. Like, we're so spoiled here. Like, living in Pemberton, like, not very far away, we go to this place where it's called Rutherford, and I'm part of the Pemberton Snowmobile Club. And so when it's good out, they plow this one section, and then it takes quite a while, but eventually we get up on this glacier. The Pemberton ice field is almost 100 kilometers long.
Jesus Christ.
100 kilometers.
So how long? Wait. So you probably get out in the morning, and you come back when?
Well, it depends on the time of year. Like, say it's like December.
Let's say a good night.
Holidays.
Let's say it's a good day, good snow day.
Yeah.
Sign it.
Those
you're
are
going.
shorter days, just because you do not want to be caught up there when it's getting dark. It gets, because we're higher up north and you're up there, it's getting dark around 3:30.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we'll actually get everything all kind of done up, and we'll be like in the parking lot, and it's still generally dark in the morning. I call it 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, or whatever it is by then. And then just when the light's starting to come up, we're going out, and they're more like, we're usually off the hill at like 2 o'clock.
So you do good 5-6 hours trips.
Yeah. And so, and a lot of it depends, like there's certain days, and I ride with some guys, like I'm I go with 2 other guys, and we're all professionals, and I like them because like I've had all the avalanche training.
Mm-hmm.
We have it all. Like I've got like, GPS, walkie.
Well, yeah, I think I asked you on the Facebook or somewhere. It's like, I hope you're not alone there.
Oh God, no.
It's
no,
like,
where we go, like literally, like people die. And
yeah.
So you got to go with people. I've taken avalanche training. We've got everything. We've got communication tools, transponders. I've got an avalanche airbag.
Listen, how does that work? How does that freaking thing work? The airbag.
You basically pull the thing. It's almost like a parachute, and it goes boom, like that.
Does it open just around your head?
Yeah, it goes literally like this. And so, like you learn in avalanche school that over 70% of the people that get caught in avalanche, they die because of trauma. Like they'll fall off a cliff, hit rocks, hit a tree. Their bodies is mangled, right? It's not the snow that gets them; it's the crash. And it's more for those ones where you're going down a slope, snow comes, but not the big mountain avalanche, just like little smaller ones. And then you pull that thing, and it helps you stay above. It's almost like water in a roundabout way. People, you'll see stuff, they'll tell you to even swim out of it if you can. Right, and so I would imagine most people just get this kind of oh fuck kind of moment anyway. But I've seen a couple avalanches happen. Like
really?
I'm not in an avalanche, but sometimes we'll go out there, particularly when it starts warming up, and then you'll hear this noise, and you'll look way over, and you'll start to see one kind of coming down, like a smaller one, so on. So we like now the thing is we know where to go. And we go with people. We got shovel. We got it all, and but you also know when to call it a day. I think that's the number one reason why people get in an avalanche in BC. First of all, a lot of people that unfortunately pass away are from Alberta, and they pass away in BC. And one of the major reasons is that there's an app from Avalanche Canada that you just go look at. They do all the work. They have all these people taking data. They put it in all these different regions, and they rank it on from 1 to 5. 5 being like extreme danger. And it's like, don't go out there. So what you learn is you look at all this stuff, and you read all the data, and you read the forecasts. And the number one safe thing is do not go up on the mountains when there's a high extreme type of probability that there's going to be an avalanche. And so there was one day last year or this season where I had some friends, and they're like, let's go. And I'm like, no, I'm not going. And they're like, oh, come on, it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, the Avalanche Canada is saying this is like a 5. I'm like, it ain't that worth it. Like, I love it, but it ain't worth dying for. And then the other thing is where people get in trouble, and is they do this thing called high marking. So high marking is like, out here we have mountain sleds. Like I've got this, like it's got 175 centimeter like track.
175.
Yeah, it's so ridiculously long.
I've never heard of 175. I know 154.
Yeah. I have a 154. My 175. This doesn't sink. Because when you're going up a mountain in snow, right, you get the smaller sled, and it starts going like this, and that's how you get stuck.
How wide?
The longer one with more power doesn't get stuck.
What brand do you have? What do you have? Skidoo?
Skidoo.
174.
Yeah, 175.
175.
174. I think it's 174. And And so I'd get a 200 if I had one. and so, and honestly, it doesn't make a difference. In fact, it's actually better to even, it's way better. It's like right around the same weight. But so what happens is these guys, they go up and they high market. So they go up the mountain and they see how far they can get before they got to turn down. And if you are doing it on the wrong day with the wrong snow conditions and so on, that can completely set an avalanche. And it's really, you got to be so careful because you could be with some people, say you had a group of 5 people, you could be down there and if some bonehead's doing that thing, they could create an avalanche. And if you're not paying attention or not in a safe area, you can get it. So like where we go, we often stay right in the middle of, and so it's huge. Like I'm talking like it could be 2 kilometers between the 2 mountains, and you're in the meadow area. And so as long as you stay in the middle there, you're pretty damn safe. Like it's like where we go, it'd be almost impossible to get hit by an avalanche. But the other thing you got to worry about is crevasses and stuff too. And so there's been a couple times where then even the snow conditions are okay, but the visibility is bad. So if you get up there and you're getting close to the glacier and you cannot see 10 feet in front of you, you better turn your ass home.
Yeah.
Because, and that does happen. Like sometimes we get these weird things where you can't see it all and you got to turn back. Or another time is like you actually are in an inversion where you're actually higher than the clouds. And it's beautiful up there top. It just, you had to go through a little bit of a space on a road to get to the top.
You go that high, eh? You go that high, eh? It's like...
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we're like, 7,000, 7,500 feet up in the air.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and yeah, but I tell you, like, when you get that perfect day out where there's the right amount of good fresh powder and you get up early enough to go, and we go to these places, particularly on the Pemberton ice field. That's my favorite. It is spectacular. Like it's like I basically don't even snowboard anymore because like you go to Whistler Blackcomb, pay a whole bunch of money, and you'll be telling everyone all day how you got 100 feet of powder. Well, I might get 50 kilometers of powder, literally 50 kilometers of powder on my snowmobile on a certain day. And it's just, the feeling of it is just, and I think what I like about it, it's a little bit like scuba diving in many ways. Like,
no, I've never done that. I don't want to do that.
So it's scuba diving, and scuba diving is all about being calm. But also, what the difference, the similarity in scuba diving and snowmobiling at that type of level is you have just got to be completely aware of everything. And tunnel vision, as an athlete, you know what this is like, where it's just like nothing else matters. All I'm thinking about is this thing I'm doing right now, and because of my job and all that stuff like that, like I love the fact on the weekend, when I go up there.
It's like meditation for you. It's like stress relief for you. That's what it is.
But the other weird thing about being on a glacier, like that type of snowmobiling, is it also is completely different than anything I've ever done, because in most things, when you're on a vehicle in life, when you feel like you're in a bad situation, you slow down or stop. In a snowmobile, when you're on a mountain, that's honestly one of the worst things that you can do sometimes.
Yeah, you have to keep going.
Slow down, stop.
Yeah, you can't. You have
that's
to keep
how
going.
you get in trouble. You actually have to pin it and go faster and do these things when you actually are in trouble. And that's gotten me into trouble when I first started learning a couple times. Like, never in scary trouble, but just getting stuck and so on. Is like I'd be going through this area and you're sinking and then you're slowing down and you're like, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Had any sketchy moments? Did you have any sketchy moments?
I've been lucky because I'm the biggest out of the group I go with. I'm always the one of like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Like I definitely do some stuff, but I'm like, I actually mostly love, my favorite thing about all of it is the anticipation that I'm going to go do it and getting all this. There's so much stuff to get ready.
You're like a kid.
I know. And I pack my stuff at night, the night before, and get everything all ready, and I'm all giddy.
Mama, are we going tomorrow? Are we going tomorrow?
Anticipation, I love.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie of it and stuff like that, because they're good people I go with. But mostly once we're there, I just enjoy being in this spectacular place that most people can never ever physically get to. And just you feel so small when you're in this area of glaciers that are going on forever, and you're that high up, and it's beautiful and blue sky, and we go to ice caves and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, tell me about the ice caves. When I remember those pictures of ice caves. Those are scary, man. Like, I wouldn't do them. I wouldn't go inside of those things. Like,
well, an ice cave that's proper ice cave is no different.
What is proper ice cave?
Well, so the one ice cave that was the really cool pictures that you saw is that ice has been around for, because the first time I went up was with a glaciologist who was an expert in it. The ice was 11,000 years old.
Jeez.
So
okay,
it was quite frankly safer at that time to be in that place than probably a building in downtown Toronto.
Okay.
So just the way, because the way these ice caves come is that they're always changing every year to year because of the summer melts, and sometimes they collapse and so on. Like, put it this way, I wouldn't want to be in an ice cave in July.
Okay. I was just going to ask. So it's not always negative temperatures there, right?
No. Like right now. Well, right now it's probably still 0 up there.
Okay.
Like, it's crazy. Like, I went up the other night, probably I went up with my neighbor, the guy I go snowmobiling with, and we have ATVs, so like side by side. So we went up there, but we were only probably a couple thousand feet up, and it was 28 Celsius a couple hours earlier in the valley here, 28 Celsius, and we went up 2 hours later, and it started to get freezing up there.
Really?
And it gets so much colder so fast. So it's probably still around 0 or minus right at the top right now. But come we have a creek in the backyard. It's all this glacier water that's going through. So even a couple of weeks ago, it was just kind of trickling in. You'd see the rocks and beautiful, like rocks, beautiful. It's kind of trickling water. It is full on rushing now. And so that glacier is melting. The crazy thing is that it melts during the day with the heat, with the sun, and at night it runs even harder because all the stuff that's melted is actually coming down now. Yeah. And so, so like you can't even access most of those places in the summertime, right? Unless you're by a helicopter, because you're going through creeks and all that fun stuff. So it's the ice caves are spectacular though. Like, it's just the one that I went to a couple times, the pictures that you saw was like so amazing. But what happened is a local helicopter company was taking people up all the time, and I think too many people. And then like climate change is happening, like, and so supposedly it collapsed. I never even got up there this year.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, so and it collapsed obviously in the summertime and stuff like that. So, but that is kind of natural on how things can kind of happen up there. And the crazy thing is, like, like British Columbia, 75% of the whole province, which is gigantic, like many of the Canadian provinces, is a mountain. So there's probably thousands and thousands of ice caves all over the place around here in Alberta. Just you won't find them. Like
no, you can't.
They're either they're like a lost city almost, right?
Yeah, no,
and
you can't.
One will pop out
yeah.
for 10 years, and then that one will collapse, and then you'll find another one. And it is a little frightening though on how fast things are kind of supposedly, when you talk to some of the locals and stuff like that, like the locals that have been here for a long period of time, they definitely saying that they're noticing the glaciers are melting. Not completely, but they're definitely, year by year. Last year, mid-April, there was a guy named Dave Treadway, and he's like a famous local snowmobiler and extreme skier, and he passed away just literally up the mountain by my place. He fell in a crevasse.
Really?
It sucks. And he was very experienced, out here. So, who knows exactly what kind of happened, but there's a good chance of areas that he was skiing for years, and was fine, was just not fine. And even this year, the last time I went up on that glacier, there were a couple crevasses that were not there last year. And at one point, I had to get I had to stop it, my snowmobile, and I get my buddies, called them up, and they had to help me turn it around, because there's no way.
How deep are they?
Oh, like 100 feet or so on. And so, yeah, you wouldn't do well. No. So I'm like, that was another one where nah, let's just turn back now. Call it a day.
This is one of my biggest fears. I've never seen one. I've only seen them in, documentaries or in movies. I can't. Remember that movie, the guy cut off his hand? Or shoot off?
Oh, yeah. 227 hours?
Yeah, 127 hours or something like this. Yeah. Jesus Christ, to be caught in something like this, in the ice, down there, no chance getting out. No chance.
Yeah.
And that thing shifts at one moment, starts squashing you.
That's just a movie. That's not going to happen that fast. Put it this way: if you're in an ice cave, and there's an earthquake, yeah, you're done. But it's going to be pretty fast.
Yeah. But that thing, you're going down. You're starting to freeze. No, man. No, not my thing.
I actually took a class this year. It was awesome. I took a class on learning how to get out of a crevasse using your snowmobile.
Are you
so
serious?
we went up on a glacier, and we had a guide help us.
Is it like Dutch martial arts? Doesn't sound real, man.
Yeah. So, but you obviously have to have, it's a different type of snowmobiling. Put it this way, when it starts getting warmer, I'm okay, wait till the next season.
Yeah,
I'm more of a fair weather snowmobiler. I'm not that into it that I'm willing to go during the time of year when there's going to be shit tons of crevasses. Mm-hmm. But I thought it would be interesting to learn. And so, yeah, a bunch of us, we took this class, and you basically use your snowmobile as an anchor. And you basically tie everything on there, and it's all about rescuing. Mostly it's about rescuing if someone else fell in one. How you would actually get them.
No, I thought you said, when you said using a snowmobile, I thought you're falling with the snowmobile into it.
Oh yeah, no, you're pretty well screwed at
you're
that
done.
Point. Especially if it lands on you. And although last year, my friend, we were out in this other area, and lots of snow, and thank goodness we had the walkie-talkies. And all of a sudden he's just like, help, help, help. And at first I'm like, what? And then I look over, because we're all in the same area. We're in this flat area and so on. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't there. And I'm like, what happened is he got his snowmobile caught, and then he went to step out after, and he fell down through a hole, which end up being a little creek. So he fell down, and he's in this hole 15 feet down, or so, maybe 12 or 15 feet down, and he's got water into his ankles, and his snowmobile is up top there.
Jesus.
Well, luckily, I had just taken avalanche school, so I learned all this stuff about, remain calm, ask them if they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had ropes with me. I had all this stuff, and my other friend was there. So, so first, and luckily, we wear our walkie-talkies on our bodies. So I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, "Yes, but get me out of here." And so
It's freaking out, of course.
So then we went to go throw the rope down, but the problem is the snow was so fine. It was like that kind of snow that's like almost flaky, and we couldn't pull him out on it because it was just going through the snow. And so we're like, okay. And then there was this other situation that was a little bit dangerous, is that there's now a 450-pound machine that's over his head, that if something happens and he gets pinned on there, it is a much more dangerous situation. And on top of that, we couldn't be too close, because if we all fell in, we might have got stuck there.
How deep is the snow?
The snow was like about 8 feet deep.
Jesus.
And or more.
More,
and
probably.
Just because he was in a like a creek, and there was just a lot of snow in a short time period. Sometimes we'll get like 4 feet of snow in 24 or 48 hours, and in some of these mountain areas, right? And so anyways, what we end up having to do is, once we assess the situation, the smartest move and the safest move was to take our shovels out and shovel snow in the creek so he could then step on it, and so on. And so we shoveled. Took us almost like 20 minutes, half an hour. And we're just piling snow, and you're exhausted when you're that high up in the air.
Of course, there's no air. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, your heart rate, like you burn so many calories when you do that. So we do all the thing, and eventually he can sit down. So I held on the thing. My other guy was with me to make sure I didn't fall in, so he wouldn't fall in. And then just pure adrenaline, I pretty well just picked him up with one arm, pulled him right out. But so the 3 of us are now out, but now we got to get this snowmobile that's wedged over this giant hole. If we didn't do it right, the snowmobile is going to fall in there, and that would have been a nightmare to get a 450-pound snowmobile going like this out of a creek.
Yeah, these are big ones too.
We had to fill the entire hole full of snow.
Jesus.
So that took about another 45 minutes. And then we're like, okay, let's just go home now.
See, like I am so for sledding. I love sledding, but it's this kind of moments. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll wait for the boat season, and I'll sit on a boat. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be pretty dangerous, but like this year there was no issues. Like I'll fall off the handlebars every once in a while, but if you're in snow, you land in snow. It's fantastic.
Land in snow. Come on, man. 8 feet
so
of
you're just
snow.
like, but mostly it's just because I'm just goofing around and stuff like that. So it's, but every once in a while, I feel like if I'm getting too nervous about something, just don't do it. Like I said, I'm more about getting to the destination. So to me, it's all about let's just go somewhere cool. Like there's this one place we drive 50 kilometers to go to this tiny little mining town that nobody lives in, just to go for a beer.
Really?
And that's fun. Yeah, it's fun. You're like, let's go all the way down there. We'll use up all our gas. It'll be cold as hell. We'll go. Of course, we got like beer in our own sack, but we go there to have a beer. Why? Because we can.
Yes, exactly. Hey, listen, why not Polaris?
The Skidoo dealer here doesn't live far from us, and he's just like talk about like I have never even been on a Polaris, and I'm sure they're fine, but this guy, I bought 2 snowmobiles and an ATV from him, and like especially when we first started out, like there's always something wrong with these things, and and I would be like I'd have to go back to the city. He would just come by the house.
Really?
grab the snowmobile. He'd fix it, leave the snowmobile at the house. He's become a friend.
Right.
Like, I'm so fiercely loyal to him. He's got a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, so we've gone out with him. He's an incredible snowmobiler. He also owns a chainsaw. He sells chainsaws, ATVs, and snowmobiles. I love small towns.
Classic mountain person.
I know.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
He knows everything about the wildlife, and he's just a good salted earth guy, and so yeah, I'm loyal as hell. And I have to say, all those all the products, like most of the time when I've had some issues, it's been my fault because I've fallen over the handlebars and broke something or did something dumb or whatever. But yeah, he's just fantastic and so on. So
good. And
I gotta leave in a minute. My wife's calling.
Holy shit! It's 2 hours.
Yeah.
Last thing, I'm gonna ask you. We hit I didn't even notice 2 hours. What is your take on marketing 2020?
Well,
especially give advice to younger people. I have few students that are just graduated colleges. They just started to do digital marketing. What's your take on this?
Well, yeah. In a nutshell, the things that matter the most are, well, a couple things in no particular order. But one is everything that you're marketing, you must have a proper positioning. So you must have a proper story that's all proper, benefit driven and so on. But the positioning of your brand, your product, your service, or whatever it is, you've got to be looking at what everyone else is doing and then find your own little way to do it. Everything that we're doing when we are doing a project, we look at what the competitors are doing, not to copy them, but actually to position ourselves away from them. But also making sure it's commercial, right? Like, say you're a beer company, right? If you're a beer company, you want to do well, you've got to make a good beer, and then you've got to create a brand that's going to actually have, be able to appeal to a bunch of people, and whatever that is, right? So, for example, if you're a beer brand, and like say some brands are, hockey, or some are outdoors and so on, you probably don't want to be the badminton beer, right? If anyone that's in the badminton, and no disrespect to badminton because it's fun.
I get it.
But if you sit there and put all your eggs in the badminton basket, you've marketed yourself into a corner. So you've got to find a positioning that's ownable, unique. And then the other thing, so you've got to have a proper strategy, you've got to have a proper positioning and so on. And then you must be more creative. You might not be able to outspend the competition, but you might be able to outsmart them and be more creative. So that's the other thing, is that I think people all the time is that no one gives a crap about what you do, right? Like, no. Like even most things in life, like other than a sports team you follow, or maybe a band, or your hobby and so on, or your passion and stuff like that, there's about 5 things in life that you truly give a shit about. Mm-hmm. And you've got all these companies and all these brands basically trying to get your attention. So if you just do something that's completely beige and vanilla, mm-hmm. like everybody else, you're going to have a limited amount of success unless your product is so much better than everybody else, and you're solving a problem that no one else can solve. Is that then you can have a weaker brand. But even then, it's like you're holding yourself back. So you just must be more creative. People are more visual now than ever. Mm-hmm. But the storytelling, so if you can actually have, strong positioning, great strategy, be ownable, and then whatever that creative idea is, expression of that, whether it's design or storytelling or the combination of the two. Like some brands, for example, like we do a lot of really good design work, but we don't specialize in just making things look pretty. Like lots and lots of designers can make things look good, but if they don't tell a story with it, it's kind of hollow.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for us, we often say that the writing is part of the design. So, like great brands, the way that they communicate is so key, but also on the same side, visually, is what is disruptive, like your color palettes and, are you using photography, illustration, video, all stuff like that. Like we're doing stuff in the design world right now where for, thousands of years, design was mostly this two-dimensional. This like stuff on your shirt, stuff printed, and so on. But many of us now, when we see design, it's through a screen.
Mm-hmm.
So we're creating all these brand identities that are not always flat. They actually can have multiple colors. They can move. They can change. They can do all these things. And so, I'm fortunate that I get to work with some really skilled people that can visually articulate, that in a really, really good way. So, bottom line is just, be good, be authentic,
unique,
yeah, and be creative.
Yeah.
But also be strategic. Like, that's the big thing is like, if I'm a brand and I'm talking to you, ultimately, what's in it for you, right? And so I think a lot of people screw up where I call it the chest thumpers.
Mm-hmm.
You see this all the time, ads, media releases, social updates, shit, all like this, all day long, chest thumpers.
We do
this, and we do this, and we do this, and we do this, and we're the best, and we this.
You're saying never forget about customer central.
Yeah, well, like, why does the customer care on that, right? Like, so if I'm sitting around and I'm like, well, what's in it for me? Is it better value? Is this gonna solve a problem that someone else can't solve? Is this gonna make my life easier, better? Is it an emotional benefit? Is it a functional benefit? Or maybe it's both. I think the best brands, let's say I love cars, right? So, one of my favorite things I ever worked on years ago was Audi.
Audi, yeah,
well,
I remember.
Visually, once they really got their products at a much higher level, which kind of happened around 2006, 2007.
Those are the best models.
Yeah, they got some really nice product, right? And so, but, why do you buy a luxury type car? You buy it because, visually that looks cool. The exterior, the interior, you buy it because of performance, which is a bit of an emotional thing, but it's also a functional thing. The styling's always emotional. And then it goes down the list of like, okay, well, what's the value? What's the MSRP? What's the lease rate? And, what's the safety rating? I got to rationalize this to my significant other. How much do I have heated seats? All these little things, right? Where there's usually the main things that people care about, and then there's the functional things that you kind of almost have to check off the list to be like, okay, yeah, they got that. And so, but I do believe that the best brands, Apple's good at that too, right? Apple products, functionally, easy to use. Simple. My wife just got some AirPods. Like literally, she opened up the package and she was using them like 20 seconds later. Yeah. And so functionally easy, but then emotionally, it's just, I think there's even something emotional about simplicity and clean design and beautiful attention to detail and nice aesthetics and clean lines.
Oh man, I just before this, when I started trying to do podcasting, I had my old Mac Air, MacBook Air, and it's old. It's not handling anything. So I'm like, let's try Windows again. So I bought Acer, one of the top of the lines. It's there. I'm gonna return it. It's sitting over there. Like on the third day, just something is not working. It's just this, and it's just clunky. Something's off about it. So I'm like, screw this. apple.ca. Boom.
Yeah.
MacBook Pro, done.
Yeah. Just easier, right? And so, I don't even know if I even know how to use a PC nowadays. Like, that's what I used to use all the time, but now it's said you just open
They're
these
good.
things.
They're not bad. They're good.
Yeah.
They're good.
But you look at the iPads, the 3-year-old's using it. That's pretty spectacular when a 3-year-old with very limited instruction can just start playing around with something. Like you've done a good job on user design on that, right? So, but that's my 2 cents.
Good. No, that's good. Scott, thanks a lot, brother.
No problem.
I understand
it's
not cans. It's not can. It's not a stage in front of thousands of people, but.
I don't want to hear anybody right now.
Thanks for being with me here. It was great. It was fun, and
me too. I really enjoyed this.
And someday,
keep in touch.
Someday I'll get to the glacier, maybe with you, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna scare the shit out of you and bring you in an ice cave.
Oh no, I'm not doing that stuff.
Russian vodka.
Yeah, all right, brother. Thanks a lot. Have a great.
Thanks so much.
Whatever your time is right now, there, 9 o'clock. Stay in touch.
Okay, take it easy.
Take it easy, buddy.